Good evening and welcome to the Planning Committee meeting of Wyndham City Council this Tuesday the 12th of October 2021. The Planning Committee meeting is being undertaken in line with the COVID-19 Omnibus Emergency Measures Act 2020, which provides for Council to meet and is deemed to be open to the public if the meeting is streamed live on the internet. A copy of the recording will be available on Council's website as soon as practicable. In the spirit of reconciliation, before we begin this meeting, I acknowledge the peoples of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners of the land on which Wyndham is being built. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I will now say the opening prayer and welcome. We pray for guidance in the Council's decision making to achieve the best outcome for the people of Wyndham. Councillors and officers, welcome to tonight's Planning Committee meeting and welcome to any guests that we have. So the format of the meeting this evening will be that each item will be heard separately. Council officers will present an overview of the report. Any registered submitters will then be able to speak and the Council will then make a decision on the item. Item 2 on the agenda is apologies and requests for leave of absence. Mr. Campbell-Reid, do we have any apologies this evening?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Good evening, councillors. Thank you. Apologies have been received for Councillor Shaw. Thank you. Thank you,
Mr. Ludo Reid. Campbell-Reid, sorry. So other than that, we have all the other councillors in attendance. So we have Councillor Gilligan, Councillor McIntyre, Councillor Marcus, Councillor Hill, Councillor Barrera, Councillor Zakowski, Councillor Ramesh, Councillor Mahfood, Councillor Maynard, myself, Councillor Hegeditch, and therefore we have quorum for tonight's meeting. Councillors, does anyone have a conflict of interest in regards to tonight's agenda? Thank you, councillors. Item 4, I need confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting, and that is that the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 14th of September 2021 as prepared and circulated be confirmed. Councillors, do I have a mover? Councillor Zakowski, seconded by Councillor Maynard. Councillors, I now put the motion to a vote. Councillor Gilligan.
For.
Councillor McIntyre.
For.
Councillor Marcus. You're on mute, Councillor Marcus. For. Thank you. Councillor Hill.
For.
Councillor Barrera. For. Councillor Zakowski.
For, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Ramesh.
For.
Councillor Mahfood.
For.
And Councillor Maynard.
For, Madam Mayor.
And I'm also for the motion. The motion is therefore carried. Item 5, verbal submissions from applicants and objectors. Mr. Campbell-Reid, do we have any people wishing to make a verbal submission this evening?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have one person speaking for item 6.1. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Councillors, item 6, strategic reports. Councillors, before us we have item 6.1, amendment to the planning permit, WYP 12425/20.02, use of land for an indoor recreation facility at 27B Apex Drive in Truganina. The report is on pages 6 to 23. The recommendation is on page 7 and the attachments are on pages 24 to 38. Mr. Van Til, as the Manager of Planning and Building, can you please provide a report on this item for us?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This application before you relates to an amendment to a permit that was originally refused by council under delegation. It was contested at VCAT, and VCAT gave a ruling that the appeal be allowed and that a permit be issued for a indoor cricket training facility with a patronage of 6 people, patronage of 5 people and a staff number of 3 people. The applicant has since applied for an amendment to that permit to double the staff numbers from 3 to 6 and increase the patronage numbers from 5 up to 40. Council, this report is quite complex and it's quite thorough in terms of its dealing with the, if you like, the the heart of the consideration from an officer perspective, and that is what weight does the Truganina Employment Precinct Structure Plan hold for this particular amendment? Now, again, notwithstanding the fact that a permit has been issued, when an officer writes a report or when an officer deals with an amendment to a permit, there is a principle that must be adhered to that is actually contained in the Planning Environment Act, and excuse the jargon, but it's a requirement under Section 73 of the Planning Environment Act. Now, in effect, councillors, what that section does is it almost gives writing instructions to an officer or to an author of a report assessing an amendment to state, if you are assessing an amendment, you are required to treat that amendment as if it were a permit. In other words, as if it were one and the same. So what the officers have done is assess this application going back to first principles to say, okay, using Section 73 of the Act, what are the principles that we adhere to? And the principles go back to the intent of the zone, the intent of the precinct structure plan, and on the basis of would an application be supported for an amendment from 5 to 40 in terms of staff numbers, an intensification of a use, a consolidation of a use, a support of a use, a message that the uses of a non-industrial nature are open within this particular area. On that basis, the officer's recommendation is that on all those counts, despite the fact, absolutely despite the fact that there is a current permit, admittedly low intensity, low key, on balance as per the officer's recommendation and the officer's report, it cannot be supported based on planning principles. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. I will now invite the applicant, who is our only verbal submitter this evening, to speak. Melanie Ellis, you have 5 minutes. If you'd like to introduce yourself and state your interest in the application, and then you'll have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Melanie Ellis and I'm a town planner and I'm the applicant for this application. This amendment application is about supporting the Wyndham community. Cricket is an important sport and activity within Wyndham, growing and thriving in popularity. This amendment to allow for the business to grow will support the provision of a much needed cricket training facility for the clubs and groups of the Wyndham community. The owners want to share their passion of cricket with the many passionate players in the area. They've already started to support women's cricket to help them grow, as well as sponsoring disadvantaged kids in the Wyndham community. With your assistance tonight, they can continue and grow their impact on the Wyndham community. It is important to emphasise that the proposed use of the land for the restricted recreation facility was approved at VCAT. The tribunal carefully considered the planning controls and policy documents and made a determination that the use was an appropriate commercial use within the applied industrial 3 zone. Furthermore, while an increase in patrons couldn't be approved within the VCAT appeal, it was discussed as something that could be appropriate and reasonable for this use, indicating that there could and would be contemplation for the growth of the business. It was determined at VCAT the proposed use was appropriate and would not prejudice or impact on the area or existing or future uses. It is considered that the proposed increase to the business will not cause any impact to the area. A significant area of concern originally raised by the council was that the proposal was not an employment use. This was effectively demonstrated not to be the case. Now we are seeking amendment to allow for the growth of the use that was determined by VCAT to be appropriate, providing additional employment opportunities. This supports the Truganina Employment Precinct Structure Plan. Much has been made of the increase in patrons and hours sought. However, this has only come about because of errors in the original planning application that were put forward by another party that was helping the owners originally. We're simply seeking to correct these mistakes and provide appropriate limitations for the business to operate successfully. The proposed number of patrons and hours of operation are reasonable in considering the proposed use and features of the site. The existing building and facilities can easily accommodate these numbers. It is mentioned that the proposal will impact or prejudice industrial activities, though little specifics of how the use will impact are provided within the report. The facility will be contained within the existing building and is not a sensitive use. There will be little change to the operation of the facility with the proposed amendments to the planning permit. They will simply be able to provide cricket training facilities to groups and clubs, providing a facility that is needed by the Wyndham community. Concern in the report was raised regarding the safety of children entering and exiting the site and surrounds. There will be no conflicts within the site as there is no machinery or heavy vehicles on site. The warehouse at 27B is not connected via a shared driveway, and the movement of vehicles on that site or any other will not cause conflict with people visiting the subject site. All movement of children will be within the centre. The proposed use and car parking can be contained wholly within the site. The owners are happy to support a restriction that only their on-site car parking will be used by staff and patrons, and that all children are taken to and from the facility within the site to ensure that there is no impact to parking in the future and no safety concerns for pedestrians. With respect to parking, we examined an appropriate use, which is a place of assembly use, as there is no set parking rate for this type of use. I will note that this use was, this place of assembly car parking rate was used for a similar application at 2 Affinity Drive, Truganina.
1 minute.
The VCAT decision at 2019. This allows for a car parking rate of 0.3 car spaces per patron and provides a reasonable estimate. Friends, teammates and families will be carpooling as they use this facility. Therefore, that car parking rate is appropriate and the on-site car parking of 12 car spaces can support the proposed 40 patrons. The council report suggests that the Truganina South Community Precinct Structure Plan area would be more suitable for this use. This is not a relevant consideration at this time. While the structure plan area has been developing for 10 years now, there's been almost no development of either the town centre or local business centre area. There is no facility that could be utilised for this cricket training facility or any recreation facility at this time. The business provides an all-weather recreation venue that supports healthy activity and leisure. This facility is needed today to support the growth of cricket clubs and the recreational needs of the Wyndham community now, particularly in this time as we start to come out of lockdown. This area and this facility is ready to support the Wyndham community now with your support.
Thank you, Melanie, for your presentation. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification from Melanie? Councillor Marcus. Councillor Marcus, you're on mute.
Thank you, Melanie. I have 3 questions that I'd like to put forward of clarification. Can you please explain your business model where you have started with 5 patrons and now wish to expand to 40?
So it's not my business model, but I can explain on behalf of the owners. They were originally being assisted by a different party.
Melanie, we seem to have frozen.
With their money application and that original application.
Melanie, sorry to interrupt. You froze. So can you please repeat what you said?
Sorry.
All right. Let's try again, Melanie. Sorry. Melanie, can you turn off your camera and turn it back on again? See if that'll work.
Did that assist?
Oh, we can hear you. Try again. Yes, thanks. So from the beginning.
Certainly. I'm speaking on behalf of the owners. They were they were given some assistance with their original planning application. During that process, the council planner asked that original applicant how many patrons they wanted to have. And I believe that there was a language barrier or misunderstanding during that time, and that's why the originally 5 patrons were put forward to the council. This was something that was discussed once I started assisting with this application when it went to VCAT. However, wasn't something that could be considered at that time. It was outside of the scope of what VCAT could consider, because it was different from the original application. The intention of the owners was not to have 5 patrons, but to allow for 8 people per cricket pitch, which allows for 40 patrons on the site. So that was that's a comfortable amount to have per pitch, that can allow for, you know, clubs to come together and train together. That's their intention.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus, did you have another question?
Yes, I have 2 more. Seeing the applicant is not present, would you please answer this question of clarification? Is your patronage solely aimed at school children, or do you wish to cater for adults as well?
Certainly. So yes, their intention is to cater to both adults and children. They believe that there are both that there is a need within a range of cricket clubs and a range of teams to have this facility. So certainly they're looking to provide and make sure that the facility is suitable for all cricket players.
The last question is, why do you need the extra hours of business?
Certainly. So 2 reasons. One is to enable them to operate during school holidays, which is important, and that's obviously captured within those timeframes. And also they want to be able to be flexible for workers that perhaps do shift work overnight, and would then like to do their exercise, their activities during the daytime. They don't believe that there is a strong demand for that, but they think that's another avenue that they can offer to the people of Wyndham.
Thank you, Melanie, and thank you, Councillor Marcus. Councillor Barrero, did you have a question of clarity?
Yes, thank you. I've got 2. Given the hours of operation are going to be the same as the surrounding industrial areas, how have you determined that there'll be no impact on the surrounding uses, and what evidence have you got for that?
Well, certainly. So as I indicated, the use will be contained within the site, and we believe, based on an appropriate car parking rate of 0.3 car spaces that I've indicated, that the car parking that is available on site can accommodate all the people. So therefore, all people coming to the site will be wholly contained within the site and the building. There won't be any activities happening outside of the building to impact on people. There would be a high number of people carpooling, or sharing vehicles, clubs coming together. People from a club coming together, which will limit the total number of car spaces that are going to be needed in any one time. Most training sessions average at about 2 hours, so there's not going to be short trips of fast turnarounds of vehicles coming and going constantly. And for all of these reasons, there's not going to be any noise or any other impacts. Obviously, off-site impacts can sometimes be more in an industrial nature. There's obviously nothing of those kinds either.
Thank you. Councillors, as there are no other questions of...
I had two, Adele. I did say I had two. So your report was silent on truck movements on the street network for those existing industries. So did you consider that, and how did you consider it?
I'm not entirely sure what you mean by...
Well, in terms of safety of the large number of children that will be frequenting this place that you just said you can guarantee won't be leaving the site.
Well, that was my my recommendation based from the owner, was that they were happy to include such a condition on their planning permit. They certainly want to ensure the safety of all their people coming to the site, and want to make it known to everybody that the children must be collected and taken to the site. Not so there won't be any movement of children outside of the centre.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Councillor Barrera. Councillors, as there are no other questions of Melanie or the applicant at this time, are there any questions of the officers?
Is this being foreshadowed?
Thank you, councillors. Now, as this item is, we have now gone over anyone wishing to speak. Councillors, I now request if there's a motion on this item.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move...
Madam Mayor, I wish to move the recommendation before us tonight.
Madam Mayor, I think I spoke first.
I think Councillor Ramesh did speak first, Councillor Marcus. And can I please invite all councillors to use the electronic hands up, please?
And Madam Mayor, I had my hand up. So therefore, if you're going to play those rules, I should be speaking first.
You've called it.
Councillor Ramesh, I believe that you got in first. So Councillor Ramesh is, what would you like to say? Sorry, Councillor Ramesh.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to propose an alternate motion. I have circulated the motion. If we could, are we able to bring that up, or would you like me to?
I'll get it brought up.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I just clarify, is this an alternate that's being put, or is there a, yeah.
It is an alternate motion. I'm not foreshadowing an alternate, if that helps.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor, is there a seconder to this alternative motion? Councillor Maynard. Councillor Ramesh, as the mover of the alternative motion, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll say a few words. As an alternate motion, I'm recommending that the council accept the following expansion of business services for Victorian Cricket Centre, that the staff numbers be increased from 3 to 8, the customers numbers be expanded from 5 to 40, and the opening hours expanded as articulated in the alternate motion. The position, this position is what Victorian Cricket Centre has requested, and notably more than council's initial advice to councillors on what is appropriate for this location. These expanded planning permit levels have been specifically selected to allow for appropriate use and replicate the existing permits for the other indoor sports complexes in the same industrial zone, providing fair and equitable treatment of all relevant indoor sports facilities by the council. Please note, however, it is not council's recommendation nor my position to promote the ongoing placement of indoor sports facilities in industrial zones in Wyndham. It is not ideal for the council, the sports operators, or our community to have the indoor sports facilities located in industrial parks. And the Wyndham planning scheme does give us discretion to refuse this application outright. However, it is clear that in setting the overall Wyndham planning rules, the need to service indoor sports facilities has been overlooked. And it is within this context that I'm recommending that Council provide the permits required to Victorian Cricket Centre to enable it to be a commercially viable business and continue to provide services to the community. So additional to putting forward today's amended recommendation, I will be considering with Council how we can refine our planning policies and controls to better guide locations for sporting and entertainment use, removing conflicts where possible and ensuring we're meeting community expectations. By encouraging specific areas for indoor sports activities, it is hoped we can attract a wider range of private investment into commercial sports facilities that will only add to the vibrancy of the community. I commend the alternate motion to the Planning Committee and request my fellow councillors provide their support. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ramesh. Councillor Maynard is the seconder. Would you like to speak on this item?
Sorry, I put my hand up to clarify. Councillor Ramesh made a mention of a maximum of 8 staff. The resolution says 6. Can I just clarify her intention is 6, not 8? I'm sorry to jump in. I do think that's critical to understand, given she's referenced a different number.
Yeah, I apologise, Councillor Gilligan. It is 6. That's right.
Thank you, Councillor Gilligan, for that. Councillor Maynard, as the seconder, would you like to speak on this item?
Yeah, I would, Madam Mayor. It's unfortunate we shouldn't even be having this conversation, because I absolutely support the fact that the officers are doing what they believe is correct in this industrial precinct, but unfortunately our friends at VCAT have given us another egg sandwich to deal with, and I'm not sure who, I don't know who the person was that was advising this business person to apply for 5. I mean, they must have been using a Ouija board, for God's sake. I wouldn't even start a cappuccino machine for 5 people. The reason why I'm supporting the applicant, or the alternate from Councillor Ramesh, is for a couple of reasons. It does refer to in our sports strategy as supporting private operators to provide services that eventually council will not be able to provide because of a shortage of land. And also, whilst of no direct relevance, I think it's fair that seeing we've been given, as I said, this well, more of a scrambled egg mess than an egg sandwich, that VCAT have dished us up, that have been supported by the same member. I think it's only fair that the operator of this particular facility is allowed to operate at the same level as the one in Infinity Drive. But I'd also welcome the opportunity to work with officers, and as Councillor Ramesh has indicated, to ensure that we strengthen our planning regulations in this area to hopefully show VCAT that what the intentions of council are in this particular estate. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard. Any other councillors wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to support the alternative motion of Councillor Ramesh. Well, in the officer's recommendation, so point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 that outline the officer's position. In fact, these have been overturned, as we all know, by VCAT early this year, and VCAT consistently overturns similar council decisions, at least 3 so far. So the main topic tonight is no longer about whether we need to grant a permit, but because the permit has been granted, well, the 2 other ones, one of them is actually launched this year, Badminton and Table Tennis Centre. The other one is a smaller version of cricket training centre nearby. So just, well, overall, it shows this is another example of the needs in our community. So in terms of indoor sports facility. So our community seems to need indoor sports facilities. And in this case here, it shows an opportunity where private investors, they're taking up the business opportunity to invest in indoor sports, seeing the needs in our city. So from the start of the term, I've been highlighting the need in our community for diversity of sports, indoor sports in particular. This is definitely another example of a much needed indoor sport. This time it's not badminton or table tennis, but indoor cricket. It's exciting. So people can play indoor sport at any time, any weather condition, and any seasons. Sports facilities like indoors cricket facility bring the community together. They provide an opportunity for residents to lead healthier, happier lives. They make for healthy communities where people can play sports with their neighborhood, not only improving health, but also providing for healthy social interactions. So it's great to hear Miss Ellis just now, the applicant, that they are also planning to train women in cricket, who say girls don't play cricket. As to point 6 in the officer's recommendation, since the allowable patronage in the facility is actually can go up to 40, and the operating hours from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., I really don't see why we would not approve the facilities to the allowable numbers to support the business. I don't see how sports manager can run a successful $1 million business with only maximum 5 people every hour. Parking also makes a requirement, and there are also plenty of parking along Apex Drive itself. So in short, I'm supportive of the alternative motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. Any other councillors wish to speak on this item? Councillor Gilligan.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Very briefly, I also intend to support Councillor Ramesh's alternate resolution this evening. And just want to put on the record a couple of reasons for doing so. The first, that's been articulated by a number of councillors, is of course the fact that this ultimate use was approved at an appellate jurisdiction. It was approved by VCAT. And whilst VCAT does not necessarily in an appeal context have the ability to turn their mind to the maximum patronage within an application, it does stand to reason that the prospects of this being approved at a VCAT level are more or less certain, and in doing so would, in my opinion, disadvantage the applicant because they would be waiting for a period of time to have their application heard, and therefore would impact on their ability to ultimately fulfil the use of this site. I do also support the original proposition by Council to not support these types of uses in this industrial estate. The reality is the types of job creation we want here is not what we are seeing as a result of the VCAT making these determinations on an appeal level. It's a further demonstration of what is, in my opinion, the continuation of the failure of planning controls around this space imposed on us by the state and ultimately failed in a state-based appeals process to be upheld. So there are broader considerations beyond just this application around why this continues to happen and ultimately why we are then forced to make a decision as a responsible authority, full well knowing that it would get overturned at a VCAT level, a waste of ratepayer money that goes with that, and a whole heap of time and money and staff resources wasted if you're going to create structure plans that ultimately are never fulfilled in terms of the principles that they stand by. The only other point I would make is that whilst I do have some concerns around 46 maximum people, and the officer made the point around intensification of this site, officers have not provided me with a legitimate reason as to why that should not be ultimately accepted. There was no measure, in my opinion, to show that 46 would be a over-intensification of this site. It's something that I would provide feedback to officers around as opposed to a consideration of just the employment PSP, but also the extent to which this may have an impact. It refers to it could rather than will. In my opinion, the threshold upon which that component has been argued is weak, and why I don't consider that, in my opinion, to be a consequence in approving this application. That would be the only thing that I would consider to be of contention for this application, as it hasn't been dealt with, in my opinion, to a satisfaction that this isn't appropriate. I think this application should be approved and this site should be able to be maximised for the betterment of the community. Thanks very much, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Gilligan. Councillor Barrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't be supporting this. This site is located in the Truganina Employment Precinct Structure Plan, and I think the intent of the zone is in the very name, employment PSP. I disagree with the applicant I don't think the current proposal does align with the strategic vision for this PSP. In fact, it takes the PSP in a direction that can't possibly support the strategic vision for the area. It is relevant to consider right now. It may have been in the pipeline for a long time, but I think it is relevant to consider the TEPSP and where we want it to go, the shape that it will take, and to see the vision, to see it heading in the right direction to achieve the vision that we want it to achieve. I think we have to mitigate the risk around planning that's not orderly. And by approving this, we can open the floodgates to further incompatible uses that will undermine further the vision for the employment PSP and therefore undermine the employment opportunities, the real employment opportunities and job creation that such a precinct will attract and ultimately deliver. I think we should be preserving the intent of this industrial employment precinct. I think it's not the appropriate site. It's the wrong site for children. I don't believe that the applicant's representative explained how the safety measures had been fully considered for children. I don't know how they can guarantee that children will not leave that site. I don't think there was any evidence to support that. Council officers don't recommend this, and they don't recommend it for good reasons. We seem to be entertaining these whimsical ideas that come along all the time, and I think we need to start to, I definitely agree we need to strengthen our planning controls. I disagree that VCAT consistently overturns. They don't. Sometimes they agree. And I think we should be sticking to our guns when it comes to the purpose of this employment PSP, and we should preserve the integrity of what it was meant for, and we should work towards that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barrera. Councillor Zukowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just think it's prudent for me to firstly say if in the event that this motion, alternative motion, isn't successful, that I'd like to foreshadow an alternate. So I'll just state that. I will be supporting this, however. So this alternative motion I will be supporting. I did a great deal of due diligence on this. I'm very torn because I both agree with Councillor Barrera and the officers, as well as Councillor Ramesh. I think that the person in question would suffer substantially as a consequence of not being able to fully utilise the investment that he's undertaken. He was granted a permit by VCAT to engage in commercial activity at this location, and this would just allow him to make that a viable going concern. What I discovered through my due diligence is that we really don't have an alternative for people who want to engage in these commercial activities. So I think we as a council, following this evening and into the new year, really need to do a lot of work around making decisions or developing some strategies and having some basically doing a body of work that would result in businesses like this having an alternative. So as much as I'm torn in this decision, I think it's the appropriate thing in this point of time to support this alternate motion to ensure that this person, isn't used. I probably really shouldn't say used, but I don't want him to suffer as a consequence of this decision. And then we need to do some work on coming up with some solutions that mean that this precinct can be, used for its proper purpose. It does kill me a little bit that this precinct, there's a possibility that more of these centres may start to pop up as a consequence of this, because there have been some precedents set now. And 6 people on a property this size is nowhere near the level of employment that an industrial type business would employ, and the level of turnover in terms of the economics of it, it won't even come close to what a commercial industrial business would turn over. So it's not the right business in the right location, but it is already there. The investment's been made, and I don't see the point in punishing the person as a consequence of the situation. So we need to do some work, but I will be supporting the alternate.
Thanks, Councillor Dukowski. Councillor Marcus, you're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will not be supporting this alternate recommendation. I'm very disappointed to hear what you've all said tonight. Orderly planning and consistency with state planning policy is the key. The site is within the Truganina Employment Precinct Structure Plan. I have friends who will not come here because they have odds and ends in industrial sites. So we are losing a whole lot of employment. The Truganina Employment Precinct Structure Plan seeks to deliver an industrial employment precinct which heavily focuses on providing significant industrial opportunities and employment. We talk about employment all the time. And here tonight, we are now on, I know how the vote's going to go. You're voting against good industry coming to this centre. The applicable zoning controls provide an important discretion that enables the proposal to be considered. However, competing policies, as discussed above, against the zone still need to be balanced. Council must give careful consideration to the expansion of non-industrial uses in Truganina Precinct Structure Plan and also the cumulative effect on approving and supporting such proposals. The Council is trying to stop the legacies of the past. Go to Russell Street and see the mess. I have spoken, I've been over there speaking to all of those big business people. They dislike having sporting functions in an industrial area. They cannot bring in their big trucks. Now, what that lady said tonight about going to 40 and the children, there's no consideration for those children. Those kids will, all that she said about dropping off kids, then she said they're going to have adults. So where, if she's got 40 adults, are they going to park? I have seen the planning legacies, as I've just said, and I was so pleased to see the council trying to make this an industrial area for the heavy industry to come. And this is now not going to happen because once we've got one in, and this is the problem with what I see, speaking to the real estate agents, they come in with a small concept, the next minute they're coming back wanting a bigger one. I would be completely failing in my duties as a councillor to go against the council officers tonight. Tonight, earlier, we went through Melbourne's future planning framework, talking about what we're going to do in the future. Tonight, we've taken absolutely no notice of our council officers and voting against what they're wanting to do for our cities. Points 2 and 3 in the recommendation clearly point out what council is trying to achieve. So I'm really sad to hear that. The amendment seeks to expand the cricket training centre and increase staff and patrons, and that's just not going to fit in there. And I'm just afraid what will happen once this goes. And will they stop at 40 people? Don't think so. I think you'll see there'll be 60 and 80 people in there, as I see in other places. So I have to vote with the officers tonight. I think they've written an extremely good report. It explains absolutely everything, and so I will be voting against this amendment tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Marcus. Any other councillors wish to speak on this item? Councillor Ramesh, has there been speakers against this item? Would you like to close the debate?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of comments. EPSB vision is to create local employment for our Truganina community. By approving this application, we're supporting the growth of employment for the use of a single small warehouse. Further, we provide employment diversity, which can only be a good thing for our community. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ramesh. Councillors, I'll now put the motion to a vote. Councillor Ramesh?
For.
Councillor Maynard?
For.
Councillor Hill?
For.
Councillor Gilligan?
For.
Councillor Barrera?
Against.
Councillor Zakowski?
For the motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Marcus? You're on mute, Councillor Marcus.
Against.
Councillor Mahfood?
For.
Councillor McIntyre?
I don't know why I'm not on camera, so I am here. For.
Thank you. And I'm also for the motion. The motion is therefore carried. Item 6.2. 2022 Planning Committee meeting dates. The report's on pages 40 to 43. The recommendation is on page 40 to 41, and there are nil attachments. Councillor Marcus, you moved it, and Councillor...
No, sorry. I have just received an email. I've got a death in the family, so please, I have to leave. I've just received a phone call, and we've got a death in the family, so I have to leave. Thank you.
Condolences to the family.
Thank you.
Councillors, 6.2 2020 Planning Committee meeting dates. Councillor Maynard, you're moving the motion, and do I have a seconder? Councillor Zakowski. Councillors, I don't believe we need any officers to discuss this item. Sorry, I should have mentioned that at the beginning. So on that note, I'll open up the motion for a debate. Councillor Maynard, would you like to speak on this item?
Madam Mayor, suffice to say it's, housekeeping, and it's just approving the dates for our meetings should we need them. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Zakowski, would you like to speak on this item?
I'll verbalise it. No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other councillors wish to speak on this item? Councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Councillor Maynard?
For.
Councillor Zakowski?
For the motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Barrera? For. Councillor Gilligan?
For.
Councillor Mahfood?
For.
Councillor Hill?
For.
Councillor McIntyre, are you still there?
I am still here. Yep. For.
Thank you. Councillor Ramesh?
For.
And I'm also for the motion. The motion is therefore carried. Councillors, item 7 on the agenda is confidential business, and there is nil. And item 8 is close the meeting, and I'd like to declare the meeting closed at 7:49. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Darren.